Hi everyone, Lisa Haven here, and I've got an absolutely powerful report to share with you guys today, specifically in regards to a woman who grew up in communist China, and she is now trying to warn the American people that what happened in her country is now happening in the United States of America, and I'm going to show you some shocking parallels that are really going to open a lot of eyes. Not only that, but President Trump on his Twitter page kind of put out an eerie, what I'm going to call warning to the American people. And it's really along the same lines of what this woman is trying to warn the American people about. And I can't wait to dive into that. But before I do, as a quick reminder, please don't forget to check out my partner at amazingcleanair.com. If you guys are looking for an air purifier for your home, this machine right here is absolutely it. You can see I have it in my possession. It's USB charged there, but this thing smells amazing, by the way, when it's in the room. But if you're looking for something to scrub that indoor air clean with a 3-stage process, this machine will eliminate 99.7% of those indoor air pollutants. But right now, check it out at amazingcleanair.com. All right, so let's just dive right into this warning that was given to us by this woman who grew up in communist China. And I found it on epictimes.com, and it's titled, "I grew up in communist China. Here is my warning to America." And it was written by a Diana Zhang. Now, this article, what I'm going to do is kind of summarize it for you, but I highly encourage you to read it. I'll leave it in the description box below. But I'm going to kind of summarize it and hit the highlights. But here's what she starts with, kind of towards the beginning. She says, "Some Chinese have commented with regard to the election," she said, "and everything that they see going on, that we thought that China was going to become like America. However, America is becoming China." Now she goes on to explain why that's true. And she says it's true. At this point, there are a lot of things we cannot say in America. Political correctness is not a matter of choice. It is a matter of survival skill. If you say one word wrong, you can lose your job. If you don't follow the mainstream media narrative, you will get attacked by the mainstream media. It has reached such an extent that we should ask, do we even still have freedom of speech? This reminds me of China. 50 years ago in communist China, if you made casual comments about the communists, you would end up in jail or in a labor camp. So she's saying she's seeing this exact same pattern in America that happened in her country when she used to live there 50 years ago. And here's some of what she's talking about before I go on. Saying the wrong thing can have you lose your job, or you can be censored from your platforms. This is what's happening right now in the United States of America, for example. Here's Breitbart.com. YouTube has just blacklisted one American news network over its coronavirus coverage. Now, YouTube unmonetized the channel entirely and then took out the video that it made. That's straight up censorship. Here we have another Breitbart article. This is on Mark Zuckerberg. Facebook has censored any Stop the Steal to stop violence and civil unrest. The catch-22 here is when President Trump and Hillary Clinton were, going for presidency and Hillary lost, they were allowed to talk about Russia election interference for 4 years, but then switch hands here. Now we can no longer talk about it because it could start quote unquote violence. It's done only to one side. Here we have another one here. Breitbart, Facebook, and Twitter labeled 25 posts of President Trump in 24 hours, but not a single warning on anything by Joe Biden, right? Here's a recent one, dailywire.com. Facebook used secret internal ranking of news sites to suppress right-wing news sources after the election. And the article gets into how that was a majority of right-wing content that was censored above and beyond anyone else. This is the same thing that she's talking about that was happening in her country. However, today we have the beauty of the internet. So this is their form the form of what she saw back then, right? Not only that, but how about this kind of stuff, right? We have the blaze.com. I've talked about this already on restrictedrepublic.com. If you're not on there, you got to get on over to restrictedrepublic.com. It is there that I share real in-depth information. And because like I said, we don't know how much time we're going to be allowed on the platforms here. So you want to get on over to restrictedrepublic.com and check out some of the things that Justice Knight and myself have been putting out. And by the way, there's a 14-day free trial. But back to the article here, theblaze.com. Here's something else that happened similarly in her country that they're now talking about in the United States of America. Robert Reich proposes an after-election commission to censor and blacklist Trump supporters, and leftists on Twitter salivate over the idea, literally talking about creating a truth and reconciliation commission. And I've talked about this, like I said before, but bringing it back up. And here's another one, thenation.com. We're going to need a truth and reconciliation commission to recover from Trump. History alone can't hold Trump and his enablers accountable for the crimes. Excuse me, what crimes have we committed? How about the crimes of exposing truth and trying to keep our freedoms and trying to keep our Constitution and Bill of Rights at hand? That's the crimes that we have committed, that they're talking about creating this Truth and Reconciliation Commission, not to mention this kind of stuff, which I've already covered, but bringing it back up with regard to what she's saying. This is on Great American Politics. Democrats are compiling a hit list to have Trump supporters fired from jobs and bank dropping them and more. And this all comes with this Trump Accountability Project.net, which was started by Democrats. And here they're actually admitted it. A critical part of making sure the nation never finds itself in this position again is to make sure those members of the Trump administration are held responsible, or members of the Trump administration responsible for losing the guardrails of our democracy are not rewarded with book deals, with TV contracts, or six-figure salaries in the private sector based on that experience. But they go on to say, however, we're just going to drop all this accountability list, and they've dropped the whole project, so they say, at least on this website for now. But bottom line, we have major leaders here. We have that are calling for basically the calling out of Republicans, not to mention AOC here. Is anyone archiving these Trump sycophants? I mean, really? This is the kind of stuff that she is trying to warn us about in this article. But she goes on to say, someone who was at home and made one comment not in line with the Communist Party would be punished. A son would report his father, a daughter, her mother, a husband, his wife, and they would all report each other for fear of the Communist Party and indoctrination by it. It had become second human nature. That sounds like what the Bible talks about when it says that sister would turn on brother and brother on sister and husband on wife. That's exactly what the Bible talks about could be coming in the latter days, but I digress, right? This right here is what was happening in communist China. And right now, like you just saw, they're literally calling for lists of a political side. That would be a Trump supporter is a Republican, a majority is Republican and conservative. But you're calling for lists. Not only that, but how about actual snitch lines that we have via COVID-19? Take a look at this article here. Governor Larry Hogan expands coronavirus snitch line. There's no constitutional right for you to go maskless. Oh, whoa. Massachusetts residents, and this is on bostonherald.com, Massachusetts residents burning up the COVID-19 snitch line. More than 200,000 calls. These are people turning on people turning on businesses, people turning on friends. Have logged in the state's 211 coronavirus compliance system. Over in Oregon, this is on the federal list. Oregon governor, snitch on your neighbors if they violate Thanksgiving COVID orders, right? I could pull up about 100 of these because there is a snitch line in every state now. If you want to do a COVID snitch on your business or on your friends or on your family members or your brothers or your sisters or your family member, why would they do that? Because they don't want community. They don't want that togetherness of us. They want us divided. You see, because division is what brings in communism. And she goes on to expand on that. She goes, she migrated, right? Immigrated to America 30 years ago. And she always tells people that America is the least discriminatory country in the entire world until now, of course, because they've caused division. Today, we hear the words discrimination and racism over and over and over again in the news, and they have become a political weapon. They are no longer a matter of moral principle, but there's a reason for that, you see. With so many protests and riots being organized in the name of fighting racism, the issue of race is now being purposely used to divide the country. In communist countries, right? Like China, like Soviet Union, like China where she grew up, the communists create division, and they did it based off social class, rich class, poor class, middle class. That's how they divided it in their country. And here they're using the same concept, but with racism and discrimination here in our country. Communists always talk about class struggle, right? They claim that any inequality of wealth, socialism, they're also using the same principles here, right? Is because the wealthy people exploit the working class. Communists use the working class to take down the middle class and the upper classes until the entire country's economy is destroyed. That's what universal basic income is all about. That's what these socialist policies are all about. Destroying the middle class, destroying the upper class, and using the working class. That's what communists do. Pit everybody against each other in some way, shape, or form to destroy the country economically. By turning one group against another, they cause chaos in society and open the door for seizing power. That's the end game. That's the goal. Now, she also goes to talk about how in her country, her friends used to, put their lives on the line to listen to the voices of America and how free they were. Well, today, over in communist China, they're not free anymore, but they don't turn on the voice of America because we are no longer a free country. And it's really a terrifying place for any of us to be, right? When we can't. Imagine if you were living in China hoping for freedom over there in America and you don't see that America is free anymore. That's terrifying. And that's the kind of things that are happening in her country. So these are eerie warnings coming from someone who's been there and done that. And it's not just coming from her. I've done reports over on Restricted Republic. You really got to get over there. Where I really did a side-by-side to Lenin, when Lenin was in power, how that happened. Not only Lenin, but side-by-side parallels to Venezuela, and now side-by-side parallels or a warning coming from a gal who grew up in a communist country. It's where we're headed, right? But that's not the only warning that was given. I told you that President Trump kind of put out a different kind of tweet, should I say, but here it is. And he did this very recently, and it's President Trump, and he says, Mark Moreno, climatehustle2.com. And he quotes him, perhaps President Trump's greatest accomplishment is U.S. energy dominance. And Trump goes on to tweet that video or an advertisement to that video there. And it says, rise of the climate monarchy. Climate Hustle 2. Are they trying to take control of the climate, or are they trying to take control of you? What is President Trump trying to warn us about here? A climate monarchy? A globalist radical takeover of the United States of America and their means of getting there? Is their Agenda 2030 policies? Is their climate chaos scare? I think he makes a very bold warning there, because the question does have to be asked. Are they trying to control the environment, or is it all about you? Is there really merit to this whole global warming, climate change hustle? Or is it about something much deeper? And if you've really been watching my channel, then you guys are already well aware of what's going on. Anyhow, I love all of you. Thanks again for tuning in my channel. If you want more information on all of that, I want to encourage you, again, get on over to restrictedrepublic.com before it's too late. I love all of you. I'm Lisa Haven, signing out.